Welcome, everybody. Welcome, everybody from around the world. This is, we're going to make this a fun, quick-paced hour. There are not going to be slides and all of that other customary stuff. We're going to rely on people's verbal presentations. Each of the great panelists will be answering one of 5 questions over the course of about 50 minutes, 2 or 3 minutes each. Just to set a little context, one of my kids asked yesterday, so what is it HR does? It's the kind of question that you pay children to ask, a nice simple question. I said, how long have you got? But I replied that what matters most in business is people. And they said, because they're a smart kid, well, what about strategy and technology and finance? And I said, try making smart decisions in those areas without good people. Now we kind of forget that every decision that we make in business, technology decision, operational decision, strategic decision, relies on the quality of people, the quality of the teams, the quality of their interactions. And that's very much something that resonates with Semos, who I want to thank them for inviting everybody here today and hosting that. They're a people-centered consulting firm. So if I may read briefly from their mission, we aim to connect and attract people by making work more meaningful. They focus on creating employee experience magnets in areas that are most meaningful to employees: communication, appreciation, listening, enablement, well-being, and leadership. I invite you to head over and check out their website. I invite you to connect with them on LinkedIn. And now, if I may, I'd like to introduce the panel. Lydia has on her LinkedIn strapline, demystifying all things HR and helping everyone in HR in the tech ecosystem find their next aha moment. She has a long industry history, including director, head of people strategy and operations at Panasonic. Suchi is the leading edge of HR technology in cloud, in ERP, HCM. So welcome. And Marcus is with Boehringer Ingelheim, is I think pharmaceutical company is too narrow a description. He's what they call a project leader, a project leader at Boehringer Ingelheim. Is going to speak to us from his great experience. So thank you all for being here. And if I may say something briefly about me, I've published only 10 days ago a book called Adopting AI, The People First Approach. And just one sentence on what people first means for today and what it means for the book. People first means the why of AI, why we are bothering with this, what all the noise is about is AI's benefits should be directed at making the world better for humanity and workplaces better for human beings. It's a humanistic sentiment. The how of AI is how to get AI adopted is also, in the view of the book, really people first and people centric. And so often in my last 35 years in tech, and really want to hear the panel's view of this, we look at technology adoption and technology deployment as a problem with technology getting the thing to work. But more often than not, where we've seen things gone badly, it's because the people side gets either ignored or thought of too late or insufficiently resourced. So we're here to talk about how to get AI done. And that certainly, again, puts HR in the hot seat for being able to upskill and develop and recruit and retrain the right people to make it work. So enough on that. I do invite you to check the book out, Adopting AI. It was briefly #1 in Technology and Society. I've been a year working on it, so I was very, very heartened to hear that. Without any ado, shall we move on to the next questions? Do any of the chat have any questions? Thank you, Philippe. And thank you, Reuven, for the shout out to the book. So the first question, and the panel can answer in any order in which they like, but let's start with, who will manage AI agents, IT or HR? Would anyone like to jump into that big thorny question?
Yeah. Ladies first, or should I start?
I can get us started because I feel like I'm probably the most even-keeled one. Just for everyone's background here, I've been in the HR tech industry for about 15 years. started out as a consultant, worked in-house HR, still struggle to answer my family when they ask what the heck does HR actually do. And I'm now a bit of an industry observer in the HR and technology space. So I think before we even answer the question, who is going to manage AI agents, we need to really take a step back and Paul, go back to your original point of what is the intent of AI agents, right? Because to me, there's two aspects of it. One, it's the efficiency productivity that everyone's been arguing about and everyone's trying to get the ROI on, and quite frankly, the most obvious business case for implementing AI. But I think there's also a second angle, which is how do you elevate human creativity once you have boosted productivity and efficiency through the utilization of AI agents? Because the whole notion of human at the center, or sort of like a people first approach to AI, is we are still allowing the people to be creative. So I think there is both a IT aspect to it, which is how do you use a system to boost the level of productivity and efficiency and automate what we're looking for. But simultaneously, there's also a people element to it, which is once your mundane, everyday admin and operational tasks are taken out of your hand, what do you do next? How do we tap into that level of creativity? And I think that's something that the HR function really needs to explore into that next era of AI.
Thank you. Thank you. Someone
Yeah,
else, Marcus or
think,
Shuchi?
from my perspective, in terms of who will manage AI agents, I think we need to look at it from a broader perspective because, from a big picture standpoint, IT is responsible for infrastructure. IT is responsible for security, and they are best positioned to, lead the enterprise application maintenance for technology stack. And whereas when it comes to HR is best positioned to lead employee experience initiatives. And HR also brings a wealth of experience in terms of ensuring ethical AI practices, and also brings a change management expertise in leading that transparency and trust when introducing new technologies into the organization. So in my mind, it should be a collaboration between these two. The legacy practices, which we still see in some organizations as one function dictating what needs to be done, and the other function implementing that or executing that, is not going to give the business outcomes the senior leadership is expecting. I think the best possible business outcomes will be accomplished with a collaboration between these two groups.
Thank you. Thank you.
I would really underline that message too. So it's definitely a collaboration. Whenever you introduce a new system or a new technology, there's always the question of activity split, who's doing what in HR or IT, at least for HR IT systems. And with cloud systems, HR could do much more. However, the classical activity really is IT provides software and HR is using it. Yeah. So, and here really IT is in charge to provide the framework and to coordinate with information protection, with security folks. So really to provide a secure and reliable framework for IT, for AI, for the entire company. And this is not only for HR. And even IT will provide, let me say, more several AI tools. There is not the only one AI tool. You need to focus on different technologies and provide this in a secure and safe and aligned way as infrastructure. At the end, it's in the meantime, it's infrastructure, and we need to deliver it.
Thank you. Thank you. If I may follow up with a question for all of our experts in the panel, why is AI like other technologies, hybrid cloud, SAP, Salesforce, and how is it unlike? What new challenges does it present for adoption in human resources? Would anyone like to try that question?
I can take a stab at it because I was at a conference last week and I had a chance to hang out with a lot of CHROs. And this was actually one of those dinner table topics that all of us kind of got into at the same time. I'm going to start with why is it unlike all of the other stuff, right? If we look at the evolution of technology that has landed in HR in the last 10, 15 years, so whether that's cloud, mobile, UI experience, UX, all of that fun stuff, what usually happens is the business market experiences first, consumer market experiences, then it goes to the enterprise, aka the IT departments, via the SAP sort of Oracle models, and then it lands in HR. So by the time HR gets their hands on it, we have the lessons learned from at least like 5 years of everybody else testing it out. We can go to IT and say like, hey, that thing, when you wrote out cloud, how was it? Like, what can I do differently? But with AI in the last 2 years, it has genuinely been everyone, everywhere, everything all at once. We are learning it just as the consumer market is learning it, just as the enterprise is learning it. And HR is trying to calibrate into sort of that new way of doing things and kind of on that rapid agile learning curve. We've been talking about it for years, but this is truly the first time that all the departments across the board are experiencing it. So I think that's where it's sort of unlike everything else that we've experienced in the past. Where I would say it's like a lot of things that we experienced past is that take it all down to the bare bones, it's still technology. Like you're not implementing AI for AI's sake. It is technology that is intended to solve your business problems. So kind of peeling everything back down to the fundamentals, it's not about how do I use AI or, ooh, let's roll out an AI agent. It's about, hey, I have this business problem or my business is struggling through XYZ. How are we going to use technology to solve the problem? And is AI the appropriate form of technology that we need to use? So I think at its core, there is still a lot of similarities in how you can approach this form of technology.
Thank you very much.
As I'm an IT guy, I truly like your approach. So what is your problem? And we are gonna solve it. On the other hand, there is as well this digital journey. So to provide a modern workplace to employees, there is, so even beside real problems, there is a willingness and there is the hunger to provide new technology as we're using it privately on plenty of stages, to use this as well within our daily business work. And for example, creating a new job profile, why I should go to an external ChatGPT on my mobile. This should be part of our recruiting system, and so we need we want to integrate this into our daily, so to say, work without interruptions on going to another device. Maybe it's blocked in your company, something like this. So it must be incorporated as normal, like my pencil or like my keyboard on my desk.
Yeah.
Great stuff. And Suchi, you have something?
Yeah, from my perspective, I think AI is unlike other technologies we had, because merely from the potential it brings forward and the potential it has in terms of changing the future of work, and leaving all the marketing jargon aside, right? What we are really talking about is, historically, if we look at the past, even 20, 30, 50 years, we have always been talking about workforce that is strictly human workforce, right? Which is categorized into, you name it, salaried, hourly, or gig workers. But at the end of the day, we're talking about human workers. And now we're talking about a technology that could take this work from the human workers, at least part of it, and in future, which could evolve into autonomous workers, which means we are talking about a digital workforce which cannot be handled just like with the same practices we've been using for any other technology we have in place. Like, if you have been looking at some technologies that have been introduced with massive impact, like, cloud has been a revolution, and ERP, when it was introduced, was a revolution. Internet in itself has been a revolution. And we're talking about a future of work situation which is embedded with a mix of human and digital workforce here. And we're just in the initial stages. To me, when we are talking about AI agents, we're really talking about, could be a semi-autonomous agents, or in future could evolve into autonomous agents. So that's where we need to handle this differently. And it is unlike other technologies, and we need to have a clear understanding of what is that we're trying to accomplish here right? And how it is similar? It is similar because it is founded, or the foundational aspect of this lies within technology, and the positive aspect of it is we have some very good technology practices in place in most of our organizations, and all our technology leaders are equipped, right, in terms of onboarding a new technology, maintaining it, and all that stuff. That's where I think I see some similar aspects here.
Great, and thank you. And there's a saying that we used to use back when we talked about change management in the mid 1990s, is that turkeys don't vote for Christmas. And I wonder if that's relevant here. How much are you finding in the work that you're doing in your own company or with other organizations that some of the anxiety about job replacement or some of the mistrust in AI may be part of what makes adoption tricky? Does anyone have a view on that?
I do. I mean, if we look at a most recent survey from Upwork, I think 77% of the workforce feels that AI adoption is going to add more work for them because they think the AI implementation and adoption is not going to be successful. That's the current employee mindset based on the survey. Now,
Interesting, very interesting.
yeah, it is. I think that's where the real challenge is for both HR and IT and other corporate leaders in changing that mindset by bringing the transparency and trust for this new technology.
Interesting. Someone else like to comment on whether trust and workforce anxiety may be a factor in adoption?
I can chime in here. I think what we're seeing at the surface as a lack of AI adoption or challenges in AI adoption is really just a surface symptom. The root cause of it, I think, is a lot broader if we look at sort of the current macro environment, the economic environment, as well as a continuous eroding trust relationship between employees and employers. AI is just another term, if you will, that we're rolling out in the workforce. I believe it's less about whether your job will be replaced or not. It's how much do you trust your employer that they will implement AI with your best interest in mind. That's at the root of everyone's concerns right now. Because I think if we look at the consumer market again versus the business market, everyone is using AI in their daily lives. So can we truly argue that they don't trust AI or they don't believe in the power of AI? I don't think that's necessarily true. It's more so the additional implications of when you bring that form of technology into the work environment.
Got you. Yeah. Thank you. It's not so much as the technology, it's whether their leaders have their best interest at heart, which is a much older and bigger question about whether they trust the technology or not. We have a question, by the way, from the audience, if you will. What do you think will be the new roles, specialists and generalists, in organizations that have implemented AI broadly? Anyone like to tackle that? Will we be restructuring HR from a model that's existed at least since I've been working in organizations for 40 years, the specialist generalist divide? Anyone have some thoughts on that?
For me, one of the key factors for AI is data. So plenty of AI scenarios rely on good data, and this data view data scientists and really this more analytical skills for data will be a key role, not only in IT, even in other departments and other areas. There might be AI scenarios you can easily switch on, but others really need structural work. Whenever it's skill structures or job concepts, so you need conceptual framework, and that's even one of the topics HR needs to provide. Provide processes and reliable data to let the AI running on that. Otherwise, you would have maybe A but no I, so to say.
Understood. Understood.
From my perspective, I do think the roles in HR function are going to evolve based on the introduction of AI and adoption of AI, because as we see, this technology has been evolving very fast. But I do think there is a curve for organizations to adopt it just by looking at what is possible, the art of possible based on what we know at this point. If you look at the current HR organization structures at every vertical, whether it's total rewards or HR operations or talent, or HR BP organizations, you have HR specialists at every level, right? You have junior and you have mid-level experts, you have senior leaders. That said, if you look at the potential of these AI agents, what they can accomplish based on what we know at this point, it's pretty clear that these agents can accomplish at least part of the work the junior HR workers are doing currently. That's a hard reality. Whether we want to say it out or not, that is the reality. And eventually, I think everybody can see as they learn more about the technology here. Now, when it comes to, what does this mean from the role evolution of HR, it definitely means there are going to be more AI agents embedded within the HR function, which could mean reviewing your current HR function structures more in terms of getting more productivity with less workforce.
Got it. Thank you. Thank you very much. And what extent is with the technology aspects, the functional, the administrative, what about is that increase the importance of the business HR interface? In other words, that very human interaction between understanding business needs and working closely with the business. I would say that speaks to me about an increased importance of the generalist and their interface with the business. That would be a hypothesis that I'd offer up for testing. May I ask a question about specific use cases? Because I'm sure everybody wants to know how leading organizations are using AI in hiring and onboarding, performance management, and upskilling. Perhaps not all of you will be able to tackle all of those, but what, from your point of view, are the most exciting use cases that you're seeing coming in earliest in those areas?
Yeah, it's hard to say where to start. So our current situation is that everybody wants to implement it in all the systems, in all the areas at once. Yeah, we are rather thinking about where to start. And there are, I would say, two main topics. So one is the agentic topic, to provide an environment where employees can ask questions and get information. So this chatbot agentic support, and this is as well from the service organization, as well for the benefits that employee can ask, okay, what are the benefits for me, and so on. So this interactive piece. And the second topic is related to a transformation of the company into the skill-based company, and using AI for matching skills in recruiting of candidates with open positions, team development, learning. So all these team and employee development learning topics, that's another big use case. These are the topics we are currently working on.
Is it true with everything in AR that everything with AI always seems to be reciprocal? There's the relationship of AI with upskilling, and there's a relationship with upskilling with AI. Is the upskilling challenge has probably never been greater?
It is for sure, because there are so many learnings. The skill, to establish a skill structure in a company is something we tried for years. Even many companies, it's a huge topic, and the idea is that AI will manage or will help us to manage that complexity.
Yes, that was the dream. It certainly was a dream that IBM had, is that we could match a 300,000 person organization. We would have a skills database for everybody in the organization. We would have a skills database for every role and function process that we have in the business, and that we would use AI to be able to match those. I can say for a fact that 2.5 years ago, 3 years ago, when I was at IBM, they were nowhere near realizing that as a vision. And I don't know whether that would still be considered, even for very leading organizations, something of a pipe dream, like an aspiration, or whether it's something that's beginning to materialize. I'd be interested in the rest of the panel's view. Lydia or Suchi, do you have a view on that?
Well, if I can chime in just to your comment here of like whether it's a pipe dream or not. My response to that would be it would be a pipe dream if you are still using the internet era mentality to manage a business in the AI era. Meaning that a lot
Very
of the use
interesting.
cases that we're talking about right now, a lot of like the efficiency productivity that we're looking to get through with AI, and to someone in the comment section, which is like AI is more than chatbots. Yeah, absolutely. But the reason why AI kind of stopped at chatbot stage for a lot of us is because we're still kind of using like that internet era mentality of how do you run an organization? How do you manage productivity? How do you manage skills? Trying to apply that to a much stronger set of technology and to a much more diverse set of technology that AI can bring into our
Right.
organization. So I think the question should really be, in order to get the most out of it, what are some of the use cases that you would never imagine would be possible, but now you're actually daring to dream about it and kind of trying to see if AI is a better fit for that?
Yeah, that's really great. And it's first funny, you may be one of the first person I've ever heard talk about the internet era as being in the rear view mirror. That's that's it. That's an interesting take for sure. Um, Suchi, do you have something for us perhaps here on
Sure.
AI use cases, or any specific AI use case you're seeing?
Yeah, definitely. I think, I hear a lot about the recruiting use case, which I think to me is more surface scratching is how I feel it, because recruiting definitely is the most visible function of what HR does. And but I see from a use cases perspective, if you look at HR's work, really, most of the times we tend to focus on HR application stack, right? More employee focused. And there is this vertical of HR responsibility towards the business, catering to the business leaders, providing them with what they need for workforce planning and analytics, and catering to your managers. And typically, I think that's one area where HR, most of the times, if you look at it from a senior management standpoint, most organizations I have come across in my 23 plus years of experience, they still struggle pulling one total workforce report, right? And, giving the business metrics senior leadership wants. And those are some of the areas I think having a strong technology powered by data can really help HR. The other really being the business leaders, not just in HR or IT. I'm talking about the overall business leaders, because HR is a partner for all business leaders in all functions of the business in terms of workforce planning and enforcing the culture and making sure employees are well supported, and managers being key enablers there. That is another underserved area, I strongly feel, based on my experience, because we always see them as consumers or key consumers, but we don't normally see, or at least what I have observed is the managers or the business leaders are not normally seen as the enablers of the HR vision or strategy. And I think any kind of agents you can bring or anybody can introduce, whether to support your cross-functional business leaders, your managers that are in other functions across the board, they are going to be a strong offering from HR to their partners, business partners. So that's definitely a strong use case I see. The other being succession planning. I think that's an area which is kind of like a closed black box all the time.
Yes.
But I think AI definitely is going to help the overall business and as well the leadership pipeline in terms of upskilling people and as well internal mobility and bringing more opportunities to the forefront.
But
Thank
you
you,
need the
thank
data. You need the data in your HR IT system. You need the skills. You need this foundation. That's my view. Yeah.
I totally agree. I think HR is in a it's at an inflection point because just like, you had this COVID where organizations were put in a situation, they had a very less time and they had to invent this whole virtual work environment model. I think HR is more or less in that situation right now because you have this AI technology coming in so fast, and most organizations are not prepared with the foundations that are needed to adopt it quickly. Because if you see, at least half of the organizations don't do their the job pricing, market pricing, pay structure evaluations. You don't have set standard timelines to do all of that. We don't have a collection of skills. And but then we have this technology that's there in the market available for us saying, well, guys, if you have this data, you have the skills, information, and you have practices and process in place, here you go. We are bringing the technology you can leverage to improve your productivity. And then HR is at a point that they have very less time to put all this foundation in place.
Thank you, thank you. Let's change gears a little bit and talk about AI agents. Something that appeared on they've been around for a little while, depends on what you call an AI agent. Perhaps we don't want to get too deeply into the weeds of that definition. Which AI agents are particularly important, do you think, in this year in 2025? Which are the ones that are appearing on the horizon that you're most excited about? And if I may risk asking two questions at the same time, do they truly boost productivity and reduce workload? There you go. Tough question for the panel.
All right, I can kick us off. Which ones am I most excited about on the horizon? The ones that more tech savvy HR professionals are able to code and build themselves. So here's the thing. I don't know if the folks listening to this are aware or not, but essentially with the rapid development in AI, you can essentially build your own agent without knowing how to code to begin with. In fact, I know someone who is a head of HR at a company who has essentially coded her entire virtual AI driven HR team, essentially, just as like a brainstorm crew, if you will. So the fact that that's rapidly happening, I think that's an undercurrent that I'm most excited about seeing, kind of seeing how HR folks would develop technology with their own knowledge base and their own experience. And Paul, can you just remind me what the second question was?
Yes. What are you seeing in terms of boosting productivity and reducing workload or otherwise?
Yeah, I think productivity and workload wise, it's really the ability of having agents that are more than just chatbots. I know there's a lot of academic term confusion in the market. We'll leave it at that. I will say that if the AI agent is not able to produce an outcome for you down to take you to at least the 95% mark, then I will question if the agent is truly doing its job or not. Obviously, you need to keep that last 5% for the human part of it, but it should be yielding some sort of outcome instead of just advising and providing ideas on the screen.
That's super great. We're seeing some great questions and some comments coming in. I'm hearing the expression citizen developers. But as Rehuven says, citizen developers also bring significant risk exposure to the company from information security, privacy, and data leaks. How would you manage this if your HR employees can code agents at their own will? Marcus, would you like to, or Soshi, would you like to have a look at that?
Yes, I think we have two topics. So there was a question in the chat of security concerns related to AI, and that is truly something you need to clarify upfront. You need to prepare, and you need to work closely with information protection security, with legal folks, even works council in some countries. So there is a lot. You truly need to understand which technology is doing what with your data. Is it your own machine you want to educate, you want to learn, or would you, so to say, spoil your research secrets to other companies, and who is even then from a property perspective owning this information later? So there are definitely plenty of things to be checked. The citizen developer topic that's another topic. For sure, there is a tendency with the technology today that more or less everybody is able to create small applications and automate certain tasks. If this is really a security topic, depends on the environment. Yeah. So if it's a Microsoft within, so you can do a lot with Power Automate, for example. People wants to do this, and for sure the risk is that from an IT perspective there are applications popping up somewhere not well managed, and who would later on take care. That is a risk for sure. On the other hand, the people want to do this, yeah, we should not stop people trying this out, yeah. If there are people want to do this.
I always find it very interesting. You know, I have a son who's in university who's studying psychology. He's studying psychology because there was too much statistics and economics, which he didn't really enjoy. And then he went into a psychology degree, and he finds that he has to take 3 years of statistics and learn to become an R programmer. And I wonder if it's interesting, like, but thinking back to the history of HR, you know, over my long career, how HR, of course, is, you know, the people-centered. If there's any function in the organization that's people-centered, of course, it's HR. But over the course of the last 10 or 20 years, HR professionals are being asked to become very data literate, very data centric, very analytics focused. It's in a way changed the complexion and the skill set for what makes someone an excellent HR practitioner, is having a facility with data and analytics and all this kind of stuff, which is, if you've been in the business as long as me, that's not what you signed up for. And now, on top of the data and analytics mindset, of course, now you have the, you know, oh, and you have to be able to code, by the way. You should learn some Python in your spare time, you know. So, and I know there are no code solutions coming up now, but we're certainly not all the way there yet. So is that a part of the HR skill set for the future? Is we're going to have some facility with Python and R and some of these technologies? That's maybe something that's more speculative or for another day. I wonder what you're seeing, panel, about generational adoption in the workplace. Are you seeing a lot of enthusiasm and adoption and willingness to learn and try new things with the younger generation? That's a stereotype, by the way, but you could argue that it's a little bit accurate, or something like that. Do you see, for example, perhaps that people like myself, if in their 50s and 60s, are more reluctant or more hesitant to pick up some of the new skills they'll need? What are you seeing in terms of generational differences in adoption?
Yeah, I think you know, that's a very interesting question, Paul. One is that, you know, from a generational workforce perspective, I think we are kind of dealing with multiple generations here. If you look at you know, millennials and Gen Z, they're definitely more in favor of the AI and, you know, any possibility of doing work smart, right? Versus using the traditional ways of working. Whereas if we look at the boomers, they definitely are more wary of any new technology and need more training as well, right? More hands-on training and need more rational in terms of why they need to even adopt this. So I think change management is going to be a big thing there. And that leaves us with the Gen X population, which are really in between these two. I think the Gen X are also in favor of adopting to AI, as long as, you know, it is accompanied with good governance and good change management that could build some trust and transparency as this technology is introduced.
Got it. Got it. How about you, Marcus? Do you see, you're not quite as old as me, but you're part of the mature, seasoned leader generation. Do your colleagues of our age, do you find them, I don't want to say more resistant or less trusting, or what are we seeing there in terms of their adoption curve?
Also for me, it's not really a question of generations. It's rather personality. Some
Okay.
folks, and we are humans, some folks rather love to interact with humans. Other
Yeah.
ones are happy to interact with a chatbot outside normal service hours. And at the end, the technology must convince by quality. So it must give a benefit. And if employees and if people see it's easy to use, I get the right answers. Now focusing again on this agentic topic. If the people realizes the value, then they will use it. Otherwise, they will pick up the phone and be happy with and stay happy with a human. That's my opinion.
Very nice.
By the
Thank
way,
you.
the baby boomers, the boomers, I would not focus on them because they will mostly retire in the few years. Yeah. So, and even the other generations have always a kind of, I would say, IT history already within their career. Yeah. We all worked with computers since many, many years. So I think it's a personality and not a generation topic.
Well, I mean, I want you to,
I
I want you
think,
to, I want you to take it easy on boomers, okay? First of all, because there's at least one boomer on this telephone call.
But
You can't
looking,
see you can't see my picture, but I'm of that generation. Um,
not a bad generation, but statistically, it's well.
don't worry about it. I didn't take it personally. uh, so um, so that's interesting. Well, one of the things is some of my earlier writing is there's people like to make a lot of generational differences in the workforce, and there's really not a tremendous amount of evidence for the fact that the generational differences in values really exist and that they really drive employee behavior. However, as the parent of two teenagers, as soon as ChatGPT came out in the end of 2022, within a week, they were all over it and using it for everything. So there is something, I think, about the younger generation. I say younger, I mean under 35. The younger generation being hungry and more quick to embrace novelty or more curious about novelty. I mean, again, that's a caricature and that's a stereotype, but certainly in my own family, they were much faster off the mark than I was with ChatGPT 3.5 all those years ago. Let me, how many people have seen the recent research that says that AI and human pairs are more effective than AI pairs and are more effective than human pairs, sometimes much more effective. So that's the research coming out now, is that for many organizational tasks, the AI human hybrid is proving to be more effective. What are you guys seeing from your travels around the world in this area?
I would absolutely agree with that. I think it's the notion of human creativity supplemented by the level of proficiency and productivity that the technology can provide, right? If we take a step back and look at how we've measured performance and how we measured ROI across the board when it comes to human performance in an organization, in a weird way, for the last decade, 2 decades, we've been measuring the stuff that is most easily automated, and we have not been measuring what, in my opinion, defines as human potential, which is the creative aspect of a human being in a
Yes.
workplace, the creative problem solving, kind of being able to bring all of the contextual knowledge together to articulate the problem, to articulate the prompt, even to an AI engine. So in that, I definitely see the human AI pairing become sort of the dynamic dual in the human being able to supplement the creativity, but the AI being able to execute a task a lot quicker.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else? We have a question on ethics by the way, which I'm really glad. So about 40% of my book, Adopting AI, you know, it's number one. It's number one in technology and society, though. So I really didn't set out to write a book which would talk about the interface between technology and culture, technology and society, technology and politics, technology and economics. That's what came out. So there's about 40 or 50% of the book is on AI ethics. How is AI different ethically than other Salesforce CRM applications, HR Cloud? What are the ethical challenges that you see, and how do you think leading organizations are addressing the ethical challenges of AI adoption? Lydia, you look like you're ready to go. Should we give so let's give somebody else a couple minutes there. Hold your horses, Tiger.
No, I'm
Okay.
gonna hold my horses because I was like, I think my opinion's gonna be different from the masses. So I was like, do
Let's
I
see
even
what
say
said you.
anything?
I know you look like you had that one loaded up and ready to go. Okay, well, let's hear one more person.
Yeah, I can start with that. So our headquarters is in Germany. So here in Germany, you might know the Works Council has a big stake on everything related to employees, and they're really concerned that the machine is deciding about, let me say, position assignments, about evaluations. So there is still the concern that a human should decide about that, and not a machine. Yeah, there is this concern. On the other hand, there is the hope that the AI is more, let me say, on a more neutral basis, without bias, looking to the data and make more neutral decisions. And I'm really looking forward how these different opinions will let me say, how the reality will behave. For me, it's from a technology perspective, it's a must to introduce these features, and we need to run those discussions openly with these stakeholders. And for sure not go for blind, let me say, blind decisions, and even the transparency. Yeah? And whenever there is a ranking or a rating or a proposal, the technology should provide, okay, based on what it's the result. And this transparency is needed.
Thank you. Lydia, you want to have a go, or you want to let Sochi go first?
No, definitely let Sochi go first.
Okay.
Yeah. So for me, I mean, I would probably, you know, as we all know, ethical considerations are different from regulatory considerations. And, you know, we're talking about, you know, corporates here, for the most part, which are for-profit organizations, and regulatory compliance takes precedence. That said, I totally agree that ethical considerations are a must, but you know, the hard reality of it, from my perspective, is when it comes to the weightage, regulatory aspects are given more weightage when it comes to practical implementations of AI. And I really hope to see any of the, you know, key ethical considerations mix into those, whether it's a GDPR or whether other regulatory aspects we have to adhere to. So I'm really hoping to see such AI regulation to come into place, which we don't have at this point, even if it's at the regional levels, is how I kind of see it. But definitely that's something we need to consider. But in all practicality, I feel that as much as it should be part of the discussion, we also need to be mindful of the fact that when it comes to the implementation, the business outcomes, the productivity, the regulatory compliance would definitely take precedence there.
It's great to hear someone making a distinction between the law and regulation and ethics, because oftentimes in business circles, I hear them collapsed and discussed if they're the same things. And as someone who was once upon a time a professor of business ethics, the standard for me is always that we do less than the law permits and more than it requires. In other words, the ethical standards are, in effect, much higher. And that's incredibly important in AI, with regulation still, I think it's fair to say, chaotic on a global level. in countries such as the one that I live in, which have almost no AI legislation. Well, factually no AI legislation, and some who feel that the European approach has been a little heavy-handed, that they've put the regulation cart before the innovation horse. Which is the opposite of what they've done in the United States. So I'm glad to hear an expert in the field talking about the importance of ethics as well as the importance of legal compliance. All right, Lydia, you've been dying to get in here. Get in here. What have you got?
So I think it might leave us with more questions and answers on this one, but genuinely, I've been noodling on this for the last couple of months, which is the whole notion of ethics in AI. At its core, as I'm like tracing back my thoughts, my question is, when we're asking whether AI is ethical or not, are we not truly and philosophically asking if humans are ethical or not? Because if you think about how AI has been created and how it's been trained, it is historical data. It is historical decisions, whether it's public data, private data, company data. It is a historical thinking pattern that humans have had across the board in terms of how AI now behaves, if you will. And there has been academic studies done in that a lot of our LLM models are more reflecting Protestant-based Western cultural values just because of the sheer volume of training data that has gone into it. So I think the notion of making sure that AI is ethical, to Suchi's point, is yes, definitely there is a regulatory and there is a ethical lens that need to be applied to it. But at its core, I think AI is just really amplifying everything that we have been doing in the corporate world or more broadly over the last few decades, if you will. And the other thing I will leave everyone with is the question that the ex-commissioner of the EEOC, Keith Sonderling, left with me about 6 months ago, and I'm still thinking about till this day, which is there truly a difference in auditing the black box of the human brain for decision-making errors versus auditing a technical script coming out of an AI engine for decision-making ethics?
Yeah, that's really terrific. One of the things that James Healy and I say in the book Adopting AI is the scary thing about AI is it's more like us than we'd like to believe. Like it produces biased results. It's like, guess where it learned that stuff, boys and girls? It makes mistakes. Guess what? So do we. So, in a way, the parts of AI that are, to me, interesting are the parts where it resembles human intelligence, where it actually amplifies some of the worst of us and also some of the best of us. So that's very exciting. I want to ask quickly a question about meaning, because meaning is at the core of Samos mission. Samos Cloud's mission is workplaces with more meaning, using a technology to help create the future workforces like that. Tell us a little bit, panelists, maybe really briefly, since we're almost out of time. What do you see the relationship between artificial intelligence and meaning that people get from their work? You have about 30 seconds each on this one.
51. I would say employees wants to have a modern environment, work with modern technology, and therefore it's meaningful to provide that technology to employees.
Thank you. Thank you.
From my perspective, I mean, we're always about efficiency, right? If you look at historically, we have been adopting new technologies or any means that would help us to be more efficient in our day-to-day lives, whether it's personal or professional, right? Work lives. And this is another evolution that helps us to be more efficient, whether from our work life perspective, that would give us more time to take on other activities, strategic or other activities that are of importance for us.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, 30 seconds. I think AI is really making us question what it means to be human truly, because once the technology takes off all of the mundane, all of the repetitive stuff, what are we left with? We're left with asking us who we are, what drives us, what motivates us. So I think it's going to be a great reflection exercise for everyone.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And that brings us really very much to the end. I just want to draw attention to, again, Samos Cloud for making this possible. They offer this free as a service to the world and everything like that. So do connect with them on LinkedIn, and do check out their website where there are some resources that you'll find useful, and check out their product mix. I have, if we can get it to work, I have a 10-second video on some of their offerings. So listen, I want to thank everybody for showing up. I want to thank the panelists. I want to thank Lydia. I want to thank Suchi. I want to thank Marcus. I want to thank Sandwich Cloud again for hosting this. I want to invite you to connect with me on LinkedIn, Paul Gibbons. And I'm in the middle of a race to 10,000 followers. It's very exciting. It's the high point of my career. I will also want to invite you to check out the book, Adopting AI, really a book that's in 3 sections. One is this thing worth the hype? Or is this a bunch of Silicon Valley billionaires talking about how exciting their new product is? Aha, which one is that? The middle of the book is more about how you get it done as a strategist, and what you use the word change management. We use the word adaptive adoption. What's that all about? And upskilling. And then almost the last half of the book was on AI ethics, which can be seen as abstract, but in my view, this isn't Salesforce. Like Salesforce and SAP are so ethically neutral, you could say, and AI introduces business risks unlike any other technology that I've worked with over my long 40-year career. So do get a chance to check out the book, check out Semis Clouds, and I want to thank everybody for turning up. I want to wish everybody a great weekend. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.